This song is for all those people out there who just don't understand what archaeology is all about. Nothing worse than being an archaeologist and having someone come up to you and say, dude, you must be into dinosaurs.
Okay, welcome back to the last episode of me reacting to Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse television show. Thank God. I do actually enjoy doing the reactions. I think they're kind of fun. I think binging that show in 2 days was too much because I got really snippy there at the end. Anyway, this episode 8, we are back in the US and we are trying to... Graham Hancock is trying to convince us of, once again, a global flood, which is also a very important part of Graham Hancock's theory. There needs to be a global flood that is a civilization-killing flood, because that's the only way he can explain why his lost civilization doesn't exist anymore, because it never existed in the first place. But the problem with a global flood theory is, for the same reason why we don't tolerate it with the creationists, is because there is no evidence for a global flood. Yes, there is evidence that at some point, I would say 90% of the world was underwater. It was not underwater at the same time. There's like plates shift, tectonic plates shift. We don't even have the same continents that we did back when the Earth first formed continents. Anyway, and just the whole, the sea levels rise and the sea levels fall, the ice comes and the ice goes. It does affect what is and isn't underwater. There are places that are underwater today that were not underwater back when they were inhabited. There are archaeological sites that are underwater. There's a whole branch of archaeology that is underwater archaeology, specifically because they study things that are underwater that didn't used to be underwater. So, yeah, things get flooded sometimes. This is not evidence of a global flood. There is no evidence of a global flood, including the stuff Hancock tries to show in this episode as evidence of a global flood. Anyway, the guy at the end of the episode, I'll save this for the wrap up, but the guy at the end of the episode is kind of interesting. I'll let you guys watch it and then I'll save my comments for that at the end, but just kind of see how the show treats him compared to all of the other authorities and experts that the show has brought on. And so anyway, let's get into the final episode of Ancient Apocalypse, where we learn about the not flood that didn't happen.
At sites all around the globe, we've seen what I believe are the fingerprints of a lost civilization, dating back to the last ice age.
The last great mystery is what happened to this advanced civilization.
There may be clues in the origin myths of ancient cultures, because many of them tell the same basic story. According to these legends, once upon a time, humanity shared the Earth with a more advanced society. Whether Atlanteans, or giants, or gods on Earth, until a horrific global cataclysm occurred, a great flood. Only a chosen few were spared to repopulate the Earth, who were later visited by other survivors, mysterious great teachers, usually arriving by sea, to help them lay the foundations for the rebirth of humanity and civilization as we know it today.
Okay, we're on the last episode. This is why he's been poorly retelling all of these stories throughout the entire series, is so that he can get to this episode and claim that they're all connected. Just FYI. I have been commenting throughout the series, like how these are oddly put together or oddly retold or in just not factually correct, even though they're oral histories, a lot of them. But the intentional misinterpretation or the intentional reinterpretation of these stories, this is why, so that he can get to this point and claim that they're all connected, even though he is, again, not proven any of that. And also, these are stories. Some of them are myths, some of them are oral histories, Some of them are literal stories. There is no physical evidence on the planet Earth of a catastrophic global flood. There is no physical evidence on the entirety of planet Earth of a global kaboom. There is no physical evidence of a cataclysmic event across the entire planet. We would know what that looks like. Geologists know what that looks like. Archaeologists know what that looks like. There would be a massive disruption in culture, and there would be a dead zone of culture. We don't see that even in Pompeii. Just to use something that is a catastrophic event that did take out an entire city. Pompeii's still there, and there's still culture levels. Like, we know when Pompeii stopped. There's a dead zone, you know? So we know what this would look like in the archaeological record and in the geological record. Don't see it. Doesn't exist. He can keep going on and saying he feels and he believes, but he's not provided any evidence. And the few times that he's either had an expert, again, that he's invited onto his own show, or that he has mentioned actual evidence like scientific dates that he was just like, whatever, he is completely either reworded what they said, put words in their mouths, or completely ignored the scientific data. I cannot stress any of this hard enough.
As the Younger Dryas. Only in its aftermath did our ancestors suddenly begin farming and raising livestock.
That's not true.
Creating societies and building massive megalithic structures.
Also not true.
Often aligned to the stars.
Also not true.
Why then? It's a mystery mainstream archaeologists have no real explanation for.
Because it's not a mystery. We know how these things were evolving throughout various parts of the planet because they all evolved differently depending on what region they were in. I'm sorry that you don't like to accept facts when they are presented to you, and please stop insinuating that we are so stupid that we don't know how to do our own job and then turn around and use archaeological evidence to support your arguments. Pick a lane.
Other than, that's just what happened. But I have a radically different proposal.
No, it
We
says
need to ask
that.
ourselves, was that really the dawn of
Straw
history?
arguments.
That all traces of the lost advanced civilization I'm looking for were swept away in the cataclysms of the Younger Dryas.
Absolutely, positively not. That didn't happen. Wouldn't have happened. All of the things that you've pointed to, trying to claim that they're part of your lost civilization, if they still exist, then the trash and all of the cultural remains of that civilization should still be present. Because in every other instance ever, in the entirety of the planet, that is true. So why is your special lost civilization so different?
To help wrap my head around it all, amateur geologist and author Randall Carlson, who's been
Well, you know, when you want to explore a geological mystery and you want the best knowledge base you could possibly have, you should totally go find somebody who is not a geologist and ask them about it. Because let me tell you, asking an actual geologist would just get you nonsensical answers.
There's a strong, what is called uniformitarian trend in geology. Modern geologists don't like cataclysms very much. They prefer long, slow, gradual explanations of things, and they prefer the view that as things are today, so they have always been in the past, even though it seems to me that that view is completely absurd.
Okay, so first, no, you're wrong. And secondly, no, you're wrong. Geologists do acknowledge that... I have a package. Geologists do acknowledge that a cataclysmic event could occur, but the main reason they don't think this is what happened is, again, you can literally see the erosion episodes just from this picture alone. Like, an untrained eye can see it. And secondly, no, geologists don't believe that however things worked today is exactly how they worked in the past. That would literally make no sense. I mean, erosion is erosion. That's the point. But they don't think that a landscape looked the way it did, the way it does today, the way it did in the past. That's something you have been guilty of throughout this entire series, though. when it serves your purpose.
Randall's argument sets this devastated landscape in context of the much wider, indeed global devastation that occurred near the end of the last ice age.
All right, let's pretend. Let's have a moment where we pretend that Randall is correct and this isolated landscape, it's not that isolated, but this landscape is evidence of this global catastrophic event. Why does the rest of the world not look like this too? Just putting it out there. Why is this the only spot on the entire planet, according to you, that looks like this? Why is there no other spots? Why doesn't the entire planet have similar topography as this area here? Why is this the only spot in the entire world that is preserved? Did the lost civilizations also come back and terraform everything for us? Because it doesn't make sense any other way. You don't get to have one isolated event and claim that it's evidence of a global catastrophe. It's just not how this shit works.
Not 18,000 or 15,500 years
I mean,
ago.
sure, date it wherever you want, man.
And around 12,800 years ago.
You're not going to support it with evidence
onset of
anyway.
Younger Dryas.
Just knock yourself out.
At a site called Murray Springs. Alan West is a member of an interdisciplinary research group that stunned the scientific community in 2007, publishing a paper about an extraordinary discovery here.
Does that interdisciplinary research group have a name, or are you not telling us who they are for a reason? I don't know who this guy is, but the fact that the show will not tell us the name of the group he works for kind of tells me that maybe it's gonna, like, make everything he's about to say, it's gonna discredit him because the group's probably known to be a bunch of whacks. I'm just speculating, because this is the first time in the entire series, I think, where the show has not named the organization the person is connected to. And that includes Friends of Serpent Mound. So they're clearly not avoiding controversy. So why are we not naming the group this time?
And so far, not a single one of those has been found in place above that layer.
In addition to the extinctions of the megafauna, there was also an extinction of
You mean in situ? One, by saying that, you're insinuating that you do find them. But are you saying that they're only surface finds? Because saying that you're not finding them in place insinuates that you are finding them. I don't know, that one's puzzling me.
human beings.
We think that probably 50 to 60% of the people across the northern hemisphere died at this time.
Right. That's a very dramatic figure.
So
That's
we knew
exactly
something
the
had
figure I
happened. We
wanted to
didn't know
hear.
So in a sense, you were confronted by a mystery that you
Yes,
wanted to...
right, yeah.
Alan's group conducted a thorough chemical analysis of the black mat.
What is Alan's group? Why is Alan digging into the ground? How is this sample not contaminated, especially since he A, just wiped his hand through it, and B, just wiped the tool on his pants? Who the hell is Alan? Okay, now I'm curious. How is it that people don't understand an uncontaminated sample? Like, that just seems like basic knowledge to me. But I guess I have high expectations. Alan West. There we go. See, I was going to do this after I watched everything. You know what? If I can't find him, Jason will. Jason probably already knows who this guy is just by looking at him. So I will update this after I read Jason's article.
Coming in through the atmosphere and either bursting in the air or smacking directly into the ground.
Okay, so I have to revise my earlier prediction. Apparently we're not going to the Greenland crater because he must be up to date on his He must be up to date on his news because the Greenland crater, as I said, has been dated as being far too old to have been part of this. So clearly we've shifted gears and now we're trying to fit chunks of the United States into this theory, which again is something that he did do in before America. Yeah, but anyway, we're still going with the crater or the comet impact wiping out everything as we know it or knew it.
A comet. A species killer. Can that explain the apocalyptic cataclysms that took place at the end of the Younger Dryas?
No.
It's happened before. To the dinosaurs.
Again, we know what this looks like. We know what a giant cataclysmic event looks like. Just saying. Countering his own arguments in his own fucking show. Is it Alan Murray or Alan West? Maybe I got his name wrong. I didn't. Murray Springs Clovis site, Pleistocene, extinction, PNAS, Alan West and Associates. Well, at least I found him. A cosmic catastrophe. Nope, that's not him. That's definitely not the guy. And the question of extraterrestrial impact. Who is this group, though? Some evidence of the recent hypothesis of an extraterrestrial impact that caused the late Pleistocene megafaunal extinction was based upon samples collected at Murray Springs, a Clovis archaeological site in southeastern Arizona. Here we describe sampling and analysis of magnetic spherates from within, above, and below the Younger Dryas boundary, black mat at Murray Springs, as well as radiation measurements from the lower Younger Dryas boundary at Murray Springs and two other well-stratified Clovis sites. The main magnetic fraction at Murray Springs is maghemite. Magnetic microspherules have terrestrial origins, but also occur as cosmic dust particles. We failed to find iridium or radiation anomalies. The evidence for massive biomass burning at Murray Springs is addressed and found to be lacking. We could not substantiate some of the claims by Firestone and others, but our findings do not preclude a terminal Pleistocene cosmic event. So basically, this research paper that was published in PNAS by Haynes, Boehner, Dominic, and Gervais. I'll try to link this, I guess. Oh my god, my cat's upset. They literally looked at everything that's being... They personally did analysis of this black mat, and all the claims that this guy just made, they have found them to be false. Because science. And this was published in 2010. And this was published in 2022. So for over 10 years, this guy has known that his theory has been proven to not be correct scientifically. But as we have seen throughout this entire series, we don't let that stop us. Psh, science. We don't need science where we're going. Here's the thing. So much of the stuff that he has said throughout the entire series has either been proven to be wrong or just plain speculation without any kind of support, which is akin to basically being bullshit. At this point, when he starts saying this kind of stuff and showing this kind of thing, black mats have been found all over the world. I don't believe you. You have given me absolutely no reason throughout this entire series to believe anything you're just now saying. This entire episode should be the wrap-up of his argument, and he is pretty good about doing an actual wrap-up, but he does tend to, go off the deep end sometimes. But the point is everything that he's about to wrap up here, he has not proven anything of. He's not provided any evidence for. The few times he's been given evidence that's contrary to his opinion, he has completely ignored it, blatantly. I have no reason to believe a damn thing you're about to say and conclude here. Especially when I just looked up a paper from 2010 that says everything you just talked about with this Alan West guy is wrong. And you're still claiming it in at least 2021.
If the primary impacts at the beginning of the Younger Dryas were on ice caps, when the ice melts away, there's no crater left to see. It would support
Okay. If a rock large enough to start a extinction level event fell out of the sky at a speed fast enough that you call it a planet killer, hit an iceberg or hit an ice sheet, it's not like the ice is going to act like a pillow. Oh, and catch it. That thing's going to hit the planet so hard that it causes an extinction level event. It's going to leave a mark. It doesn't matter if it lands on the ice or the ocean. Jesus. But it's okay, man. It's cool. Keep going.
Well, still, one impact alone couldn't have created all the black mat sites mapped out by Alan's research team.
Okay, so you have to have multiple impacts in order for this to work, but multiple flooding events is completely absurd. Just putting it out there.
Their discoveries led to a startling idea. Perhaps it wasn't one cosmic impact that left all these traces around the world, but many. A brief, intense storm of cosmic debris that the Earth ran into. They called it the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis.
I'm sorry, if the planet went through a hailstorm of comets large enough to eradicate a global species of people, it probably would have completely fucked the atmosphere as well, and we wouldn't be here because we wouldn't be able to survive in whatever was left of the environment. The environment would have changed. That's what kills things, the environmental change. So the environment would have changed to the point where it would be far too harsh for us to survive. We would not be here. Something else might be. I don't know. Us? No. Small mammals. It's always small mammals. We are not that small.
From the body and the legs of the fox.
We
If we go
do.
onto the other side of the pillar, and again we have the snakes kind of emanating from these birds.
Ancient cultures did see comets as sky serpents. There's really no serious dispute about
You have not
We can
established
interpret it
that,
as
but
meteors
thanks for
radiating
speaking like
from
an authority
specific
anyway.
Constellations, tall bending birds. Probably
All
not
ancient
present in
cultures were the same ancient
And here we
culture.
have the constellation Aquarius. We think that's what the fox represents. At the time, Göbekli
Aquarius. Are you even going to bother to defend that statement, or are you just going to say it, you who was not actually one of the authorities on Göbekli Tepe, which, you know, if you had actually talked to them, this would be a totally different show. Also, they probably won't talk to you. What does it say that you have ruined your reputation, or you have built a reputation that is so toxic that actual authorities on the sites you want to go to will not talk to you? Like, slam doors in your face. What does that tell you? I mean, for him, that makes him walk away thinking that, you know, he's being persecuted, but what is it if you heard someone else from outside of your social circle tell you something like that? Would your first thought really be, wow, this guy's persecuted? Or would your first thought be, why are so many people unwilling to work with you?
Could the imagery of Pillar 43 be a message contrived by the master astronomers of a lost civilization?
Master astronomers. Because remember, boys and girls, human beings don't have eyeballs. And they certainly don't have brains. So it has to be a lost civilization of eyeball people who are just eyeballs with large brains, and all they do is study the sky. And they must have had hands too, because they made carvings. Or maybe that's why they domesticated humans, is so that the humans could do the carvings for them. So what I'm saying is, this lost civilization is actually just a civilization of beholders. And so they must have been using their mind powers to control everybody as well. Which could be why we don't know where they where they are, because as everyone knows, beholders don't actually have any kind of like bone mass to them. They're all just like a gelatinous glob of eyeballs. Sarcasm.
A warning to the future. Interest is no longer confined to scientists.
If something did hit Earth somewhere around 12,000 years ago.
Shit. His interest is going beyond archaeologists. So you would think that since he's talking about astronomical events, he would then go to like an astronomer or somebody who knows something about space. No, he goes to Joe Rogan.
It's so strange that people will only accept and talk about one narrative. The narrative
it's strange that you won't accept any other narrative except the narrative that you're
Maybe part of the
pushing.
reason is it
Man,
threatens the notion that
what's
we are
that
the
like?
apex and pinnacle of the whole.
I'm not even pausing it anymore.
After those cosmic impacts on the ice caps, sea levels rose, swallowing up all the low-lying coastal lands that would have likely been settled by an advanced culture.
Only advanced
Places like
cultures could have
Sunderland.
settled those lands. Non-advanced cultures don't know how to settle things, so there's no way that they could have been there.
Perhaps in Indonesia, the survivors
Now
retreated.
keep in mind, Hancock's the only one who can
tantalizing
determine
clues to
what
their
an advanced
sophisticated
culture is. Like,
Some survivors
archaeologists
may have
don't do
decided
that.
to carve out refuges.
He's the only one that knows what
case more
advanced
meat is
means. He
struck.
still hasn't explained
In
what
the
that is. Like, he
Mediterranean,
knows an advanced
the survivors
civilization
might
when
have
he
built temples
sees one.
aligned to the brightest new star in their night sky.
I've learned to respect the wisdom and, yes, the science of the ancients. They
But only the ancients.
understood the
Modern
threat from the
science,
skies
fuck
and
that.
kept their attention focused very closely on the cosmos.
All right, Hancock decided that at the end of this episode, he was going to predict that at the winter solstice of this year, there's going to be a cataclysmic shower of space dust from a comet that is going to initiate another extinction level event that is going to kill us all. So, happy Christmas. If I see you guys in the new year, I guess that means he was wrong. I'm sure he'll have some other way of backing out of his doomsday prophecy if it doesn't occur. I'm going to guess it's because the giant ant people that live beneath the desert somehow saved us. I'm not sure. I'm being sarcastic about that part, but he really did say on this episode, in a roundabout way, that the doomsday event is going to occur at the winter solstice, which would be roughly around Christmas for most of us here. Just, want you to be aware of that. Wouldn't want to not pass on the message. Other things. If indeed there was going to be some kind of space event that was going to kill us all, apparently all of the technology that we have today across the entire planet and all of our satellites and all of the tracking and, all of the space stuff that we are aware of, even though we can see every other asteroid in space as it gets close to the planet, we won't be able to see this one somehow because it's magic, special, something, I don't know. Because, God hasn't come down and given us serpents from the sky messages. But technology sure as fuck can't see this thing in the sky. So it's a good thing Graham Hancock made this television series 4 hours of a roundabout way of telling us that he thinks the world's going to end this December. I learned a lot about being an archaeologist, things I did not realize after going through basically 8 years of school and then working in the field for 20 years. I didn't know that I couldn't see the sky, but now that I'm aware of that, I'm going to do my damnedest to go out and see if I can look up and see the sky. I'm going to give it a shot. I'll let you guys know what the results are later. I also didn't know that I was completely inept and a total dumbass and don't know how to do basic science. But clearly I needed a journalist to tell me that. And my archaeology as a whole, our discoveries only count when they support Hancock's theories that he doesn't bother to try to support with actual evidence. But any time that we give him actual scientific evidence of any variety, he doesn't like it. So, that's part of us being idiots and not knowing how to do our jobs. Overall, this series really was just kind of a rehash of all of his books. The last couple episodes, the one about the Ohio, where he's basically in Ohio for a while, and this very, very last one where he's trying to tie the impact site into Washington State for some strange reason. Those two things come directly out of the last book of his that I read, which again was Before America, and it's this. It's just this, only it's in book format, and he's much more wordy in his book format. As a show, it's very slow. I was watching it at time and a half. I could still understand him perfectly. It's not even like he sounded like he was talking fast, so even the music didn't really pick up that much, which tells me that this was really slow if I had watched it at regular speed. And I don't know why that is a trait of these kind of shows. Like I've said, this is That's just something all of these shows do. They're just incredibly slow. They speak incredibly slowly. The music, even though it's epic, is incredibly slow. It's like they're trying to put you to sleep. The artwork in it was really cool. I will say that. The reinterpretations of everything was annoying. Graham Hancock's own dates don't even line up with his claims. And he basically can't even make his theory work unless he completely reinterprets and cherry picks everything he needs it to be. Again, we never once looked at anything Asian. I'm not quite sure. We didn't go very far into the African continent if we did at all. We spent no time in Europe. So I don't know exactly what that means other than, 2/3 of the planet was basically not used for his theory. Like, does it just not exist? I don't know. But that does kind of support people's accusations of cherry picking. He doesn't even, he can't, even though he claims that this lost civilization was a global civilization, he can't line his lost civilization theory up with the entire world because it doesn't work. And since he can't even provide evidence for the few things that he does claim, he can't stray outside of the things that he thinks he can manipulate because he can't even argue for it at that point. This was an entire series of Hancock making nasty accusations against people who don't like him, which, fair, people said nasty things about him. Him creating nothing but straw man arguments because actual arguments won't work. He can't defend himself in an actual argument using actual facts and actual evidence because he doesn't have any of that. He reinterpreted everything he needed in a way that worked for him, even though that's not the way it would be traditionally interpreted either by evil archaeologists or even like the native people from whom he stole these histories and legends from. White people didn't need help. Just want to throw that out there. And all of his conclusions are just him basically saying, I feel and I believe. That was the show. He really just started repeating himself from episode 2-ish on. The only thing that changed was the backdrop. And yeah, that's it. And don't forget the world ends in December, so stock up now? I don't know. Go dig your holes now. We're going to have to go live underground again with the giant ant people. That's what I'm taking away from this one. Anyway, unless I get hit with a copyright strike, hopefully you guys will be able to watch the clips of the videos that I leave in. If not, and you see a still frame in the corner here, that's because I was getting hit with copyright. And thanks for suffering through this with me. I hope you all enjoyed my live tweets, and I'm going to go do anything else now. All right, if you've made it to the end, go ahead and leave a wave emoji in the comment section. Yeah, the wave. I think there's a wave one, isn't there? A water or a wave one, whichever. And yeah, so this episode it also was the wrap-up episode, so you probably heard him repeating again everything he has been saying over the past 7 other episodes. It's fairly repetitive at this point. I mean, you could probably say it along with him at this point. The guy at the end is interesting to me because the show kind of buries him in that it doesn't. Every other person that comes on the show, it has had some kind of byline for so-and-so expert in such and such a thing. Even the Gobekli Tepe guy, he had some, he was like so-and-so, and he was like some kind of ancient astronomy expert, even though he has nothing to do with that. My mic's over here, by the way. This guy, they didn't do that with, which caught my attention right off the bat. And I tried to look the guy up, can't find him specifically, but I did find a paper on what he's talking about. And the paper basically goes into looking at and testing the theory that the guy was putting forward with the black ash line, or whatever, the black soil line there. And obviously the paper did not find that the theory held up, because it doesn't. And yeah, so that I found interesting, is that someone out there has actually tried to test his theory and found it, of course, lacking. That's not going to stop anybody from trying to use it as evidence, because why would it? Why would we need actual evidence? Clearly we don't give a crap. Yeah, so I just thought that was interesting, the way that guy was specifically treated compared to everyone else in the show. And yeah, and then that's just the wrap up of the series in general. I'm glad Hancock had a good time traveling around the world looking at really cool sites. I'm glad Hancock had a good time making another television series. I'm glad Hancock makes more money than I do sleeping. You know, I'm not going to pretend like it's not a thing that actually happens, but you know, other than this being like a promotion for his most recent book and just a money grab in general, what was the point of this series? There really wasn't one. I don't know how. There's only so many ways I can say that. Like, there's no evidence, there's no point to this series. Hancock hasn't proved anything, and other than just walking around telling us about his feelings and completely reinterpreting prehistoric and native people's oral histories to fit his needs, Hancock didn't do anything. And yes, oral histories are important, but Hancock's not providing you with the actual oral history. Hancock's completely changing some of these myths at some points to support his idea. And these, they don't. Anyway, I'm going to go off on a tangent again. Anyway, this was episode 8, the final episode. I don't know. Tell me what you think down in the comments section down below if you want to. Be nice. I do moderate my comments. And yeah, if you have made it this far, again, leave a water or a wave icon down in the comments section. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next set of videos that I make at some point in the future.